Okay. Hi. Um, Hi. I haven't been to this meeting, but I've been in DA for 25 years, something like that. I have what I chose is the second promise. Number two, clarity will replace vagueness. Confidence and intuition will replace confusion and chaos. We will live engaged lives, make decisions that best meet our needs, and become the people we were meant to be. Is that right? Am I doing this right? Okay. And now I expand on this. Hi, everybody. I ran into a friend yesterday who I hadn't seen for about 17 years, and she asked me, among other things, we talked about her kids, we talked about a lot of things, but she finally got around to asking me if I still write down all of my numbers. She found that very eccentric and interesting that I did that. And I explained to her, she's not in the program, or any program as far as I know, but I explained to her that knowing how much money I had or didn't have just made me feel safe. It made me understand where I stood, kind of in and what I had to do. And it was interesting because I didn't talk to her about DA, but I did talk to her about what I guess I talked to her about insecurity that came from a lack of information. And it's really, it's so much that by knowing where I stand, let me see if I can make this make more sense. By knowing where I stand, I can go forward. I spent most of my time, especially now, especially in the past 2 years, just by myself. I live alone. I work at home. I don't work through Zoom. I'm an artist, and so I work in my studio, and I'm very content doing this. It's sort of like a long, as we all know now, it's a long snow day. Just being kind of told to stay home is the thing that I always wanted to be told anyway. And so this is a great opportunity for me to just kind of be who I have always been, just without feeling confused about it. So I work at home. I work alone, and what I want to get back to the promise. What happened for me in DA? I was working in an industry that I wasn't very happy with, but it was. I used to work on movies. I used to be an art director, and and it was better than working in restaurants. So it was clearly something where I was able to do something that I was good at, instead of pretending that I was sort of good at something. Working in restaurants I was never gifted in restaurant work. Anyway, so in DA, I was able to kind of, or actually not kind of at all, I was able to change my focus. I had I was always an artistic kid. I was a kid that made things, and it was one of many things that just made me weird. And so it was just one of the things that I was pushing aside, trying to just I guess fit in, which it seems strange, but when I say it that way, but I think I was really more trying to get by, just not stand out so much. And I mean, in high school, I made my own clothes. I was, I just was always making stuff. My way of sort of solving problems was to make them, was to make stuff, not problems, but to make things. And to understand things was to
5
build
minutes.
myself. Thank you. And in DA, I was able to finally, and I was able to finally kind of be humbled to. I was able to kind of recognize that it was okay for me to just pray for the willingness to be myself instead of who I thought I was supposed to be. And it was the person that I was supposed to be, what I was supposed to be. I worked very hard when I worked on movies, but I was looking for validation. When I realized that making art, being at home, being alone, working on my own projects was what really I was probably built to do. I really came to terms. I kind of befriended myself in a way I never
4
had.
minutes.
1 minute left. Is that right?
No, 4 minutes left.
Okay, thanks. The so there was so it was this promise did really come true for me. I was able to use. I was able to stop working on films, and make art full time, and it kind of fell together. Um, I'd worked for, I mean, I knew about the art world because I'd worked for artists. I had worked for 3 different artists, and when that I did between jobs working on films, and so I did know how things worked. It's not like I learned how to make art, but I learned how to work within that industry, um, by with hands-on, with the hands-on sort of information. Um, but I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking, when you buy a new car, you think you've finished buying cars. The car thing is done, right? And then the car gets old, and you drive it, and then it becomes a problem. And and then it's sort of like you buy a pair of shoes, or I do. This is the way that I think. I buy a pair of shoes and I think, oh, good, shoes are done. I don't have to do that again. And then you wear them, and then you have to do them again. It's the same thing with having a career. Is that I was kind of, I had a very splashy opening, and I thought, well, that's done. I had galleries. I had a gallery here. I had a gallery in New York. I had all that sort of stuff, all the stuff that you think you want, and it was fine. But then everything changes because everybody's alive. Galleries closed. Galleries changed. People died. Things just change, and so I am always in the middle of having everything that I have. I'm in the middle of wearing shoes. I'm in the middle of my car. I'm in the middle of the experience of having a career. And I always thought, wrongly, that there was a kind of, you'd get to the top of the mountain, you'd just stay there. And it's just not the way it works. And the same thing with me financially. It changes. One of the things that I have also been able to do because of DA, because of the experience of doing long shares, and I started to lecture pretty early about my work. And I've said it before, but it really is, it's just a long share with slides. I'm just doing the same thing that I learned how to do in these rooms, or Zooms. And it really is rewarding for me to know that when you have information and you share it with somebody else, it's kind of your responsibility. It's not a vanity thing. It's
1
a
minute.
continuation. Do I have one? Or is
Yes,
that done?
1 minute.
1 minute, thank you. And so it's the same thing with everything that I make. I am able to, one of the things, I work with graduate students primarily, and one of the things that I try and really encourage them to do is to not think about the market when they're working in their studios, because then they can have a successful day without it being sort of predicated on anybody else's response. the work of art will tell you what it needs. Just keep going back to the work of art. It will explain itself to you as it's being realized. Not to anticipate what somebody else's reaction is going to be. And that's the way that I live. And so I have good days and better days most of the time, because I do what I am kind of built to do. I don't think that being an artist is especially special. I feel most of the time like a spider that's weaving webs. This is just what I was kind of designed to do. Um,
Time.
and thank you. And it's an enormous relief that my life isn't will driven. I'm still a person and still have an ego, but it is, I can always rely back on balancing my checkbook, saying my prayers, and being of service as a goal and a guide. Thanks.
Thank you. Would you please stop the recording? Let's see.